Well, good morning, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. I certainly am this morning. You may hear a little bit of traffic behind me. I do apologize for that, but I have just pulled right off the road here. I'm still pretty close to the road, right next to the parking lot. I was going to hike a little bit this morning for some landscape photos, but there's just a really nice scene right here, right off the road. And so I think I'm gonna go ahead and start here, even though I wasn't really planning to. And then after I get a couple of photos of this, then I'll walk on down. Hopefully it'll be a little bit lighter then, because I was going to hike out into the woods, and I actually think with the clouds that we have this morning that it's just a little bit dark for that still. So I'm gonna set up this picture and I'll show you what I've got, and then go on a little bit of a hike. Alright, so I am just right here. I've actually gotten a little bit closer to the road now, and you can see behind me my car is just right here. This is the parking lot and a fairly busy street. And then I've got the camera set up right here, and I'm just gonna try to get a nice wide picture of this area down here. I'm gonna use the same technique as I used on the last photo shoot of just taking a panorama and using a little bit longer lens than would get the entire scene in. And so I'm just gonna try to go ahead and snap that. I won't talk about it too awfully much since it is a bit noisy right here. But it's not a very complicated photo. The most complicated thing is the panorama. Otherwise, it'll be pretty much just a straightforward exposure. I might wait around a few minutes and see if the light changes at all, just to get a little bit better lighting on the scene. And then after that, I will hike on down the way. Hopefully it'll be a little bit brighter out then, so I'll have a little bit more light in the trees. It is fairly cloudy out this morning, so there's not really light streaming through the trees, but we'll see what we can do with it. Okay, here's just a quick second shot here as well. This one's going to be a portrait getting in the tree, if you can see right here, and kind of get all the way from the bottom to the top of that tree, just a little bit of space to the left of it, just to get a picture of that tree itself, because I just think that that is a really pretty looking tree. It's very old and kind of twisty and unique looking, and stands out a little bit from the surroundings because there aren't really a lot of other trees around it. So I've backed up a little bit more just to try to get a shot of that. Alright, are you guys ready to explore? I am. Let's go. So the main feature of this park, as you might imagine, is this waterfall. And it's pretty close off of the road here, a couple hundred feet down maybe. And it used to be that this area was fairly rugged. It was all sort of dirt trails through the trees here. But as the area has kind of grown up and tends to happen, they've paved this whole area, put in fences along the waterfall to make sure that nobody either falls off or intentionally jumps off. And so in a way it's nice because it means that more people are able to come out and explore this area, particularly anybody who might be in a wheelchair or not able to get through the woods as easily. But in a way it is kind of sad just from a photography perspective that it's not really as natural looking as it used to be. Now, the fences that are here aren't really a major eyesore. You can still get some really pretty pictures of it. I might try to take a few, but it's not quite as natural perhaps as I might like. It is really pretty though. This morning there's some redbud trees, I think, back in here that are blooming a little bit, and some first leaves coming on, and then the moss that is all over these banks is just very, very green and vibrant looking all around across here. Whatever this ground cover is over here in these trees, it's just really pretty. So I do definitely like the bright greens that I'm seeing out here, especially with that little bit of dash of purple thrown in. Kind of thinking of taking a picture right here in this area. It's very green over here, and I could go up on the gravel there and just try to get a closer up picture in these trees with all this ivy and ground cover starting to get its leaves here. This is really kind of some of the first green of the year. The trees don't really have their leaves yet. The grass has definitely been very much green for a bit, but this is the first really big green leafy area that I think I've seen this year. So I might try to shoot a picture of it. Alright, so this is not going to be a tripod shot. This is going to be a handheld shot. And the reason for that is just the angle that I want to get. I'm going to try to get down real low on the ground here and get a nice angle down through these trees. I'll probably focus up close on some of this green ivy, and you'll just be able to see kind of on down into the water behind it. That'll hopefully give it a little bit of a sense of depth behind the subject that'll be close up in the foreground. Alright, I think I've gotten some shots that I'm happy with here. Just some close-ups of that, both focused behind it, as in this one, to give a picture of the background, as well as just of that vine that's growing up the tree there. I think that's a really, really neat looking picture. It's a bit more small and personal and abstract than a lot of landscape photos. Kind of a woodland photo. There's just several of these here, so I will obviously sort through and find which ones I like of that on the computer and edit it up, and I'll put it on the screen for you. I would say, guys, don't be afraid to play around with your subject a lot when you're doing photography. I think there's kind of this romantic idea that photographers are able to just get an amazing picture in one shot, And it's not really that way at all. You do have to play around with it a bit and experiment with the subject, try different angles, and you kind of come out with a lot of pictures, and then you find one that's really good, and like everything else, that's the picture that goes on Instagram. And there's dozens of other shots that nobody ever really sees because they weren't the best one. And so, don't be afraid to mess around a little bit until you get something that you like. Alright, well, we're getting out into the woods a little bit now. It's a little bit more rustic or natural looking out here. Not as built up once you get off the main area. And it's quite lovely this morning. As you can see, there's just all these really green plants down on the ground here. It makes a really nice green ground cover. The trees still aren't really getting their leaves yet, and so there's kind of a contrast between the greens on the ground and the brown trees stretching above. Alright, and this is what I actually kind of came out here for, is there's these stairs here, and I can take these and go right down next to the little creek that runs down through, and get some pictures right by the water. It looks like in this area there's not a lot of space by the water, but there's kind of some cool rocks here. It's just really, really pretty here. There's these cool rocks on the ground and the water running through, some lovely trees. It is very noisy back here, as I'm sure you've noticed. There's kind of some white water that's really right next to me here, flowing over these rocks pretty hard, so hopefully you guys will be able to hear me okay. And I'm just gonna shoot some pictures here. I'll try not to talk too much since it's really loud, and I'll just put some voice over it later to explain anything if I need to. Alright, you guys, we're just getting a couple moments of really beautiful light right now, so I'm just trying to snap a few pictures of this light coming in as fast as I can. And this is just really gorgeous. This is what photographers love right here, is when the light just comes in right on your subject. It's just perfect. Alright, so I've taken a whole bunch of pictures in this area. The clouds this morning just worked out really well. They kind of broke up a little bit off and on, and some light kind of came down in and really lit up my subject really nice here. So I've tried a whole bunch of different angles. I'm not really sure, on the really tiny screen on my camera, which ones I'm gonna like best, or kind of how that lighting really looks, but once I get them on the computer, I'm sure I'll see that there's some really good stuff here. The light was just really nice this morning, and so I'll edit some and I'll put them up on screen for you guys. And if I kind of get some really good light, then I'll shoot a few more pictures, but otherwise I'll probably start heading on out. Alright you guys, well that is going to be it for this week's video. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button before you go and subscribe so that you don't miss next week's video. We'll be going through and showing you the editing process for some of these pictures, as well as some great content that I've got coming up later this month. As always, thanks you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.